Innovative.
Dynamic.
Gritty.
Determined.
Warrior.
This podcast is about the innovators,
the leaders on the front lines of adversity,
the all-around good people doing good deeds.
They are the civic warriors of the world.
Witham's guests are the leaders in the nonprofit industry affecting change.
They try, they fail, they overcome.
Through their stories, we can join forces to become civic warriors. Yeah, so hey everybody, thanks for being here. On the show today, we have Ashley Van from the Victory Cup Initiative, which is a 501c3 not-for-profit located in Central Florida. On here as well, we have my co-host, Ashley Crompier, and also one of my partners here from our Orlando office in Witham, Lena Combs. So thanks for being here, Ashley. We really appreciate your time. You know, we shared some good conversation on our first call, and just really love the story that you have, and really appreciate you spending the time with us.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Lena, for inviting me to be here.
Awesome. So Ashley, why don't you start and just give us a little bit of information about yourself, how you came to find or how you founded Victory Cup, and a little bit about the organization.
So I am the founder and the executive director of the Victory Cup Initiative, and I am someone who's dedicated to helping others connect with missions that really mean a lot to them, to find the missions that align with who they are and who they want to be and how they identify. We built a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to helping individuals find a nonprofit that they can be passionate about, either to volunteer with, to donate financially, or potentially maybe serve on the board of directors and take a leadership position. It's called the Victory Cup Initiative. We've been around for 5 years. And in the last 5 years, we've probably connected over 2,000 business leaders in Central Florida to over 50 nonprofit organizations. We've given away almost $300,000. And we've attracted lots of community volunteers and, like I said, local leaders to support the nonprofit organizations. I grew up here in Winter Park, and I am the youngest of 5. So I'm someone where growing up, we always talked about money and how much things cost, and the importance of being able to talk about money and how blessed we are to have what we do have. And so because of that, I'm very passionate about generous giving, which led me to want to start a nonprofit to teach others about the value and the importance of giving.
From your perspective, why do you feel that giving is important? I mean, you kind of touched on it, just, you're very mindful of dollars and cents, but why do you feel that being generous and giving to others is something that we all should do more of, as well as something that you're passionate about? Why is that?
Sure. Well, even though I believe it's been about 3 weeks since we last spoke, I think the current environment is definitely very important to why I feel it's important to give and to encourage others to serve. I don't know why I've been given as much as I've been given, or been blessed with as much as I've been blessed. And I really feel as though it's my responsibility to be mindful of those who are less fortunate, those who are living in marginalized communities. And I think we all need to always be looking around for how can we serve others. I believe personally that God made the earth, and that the earth is perfect, and that the earth is adequate in serving all the men, women, and children that live on the earth, but that it is man who has disproportionately abused its resources. And so that it really is our responsibility to find ways to get back to sharing, loving one another, and just really being a part of a greater community. I also think that anyone over the age of 40 is looking for something bigger and better than themselves. They're looking for something that says, hey, my life matters, and there's more out there than just me, the car I drive, the house I live in, what's going on just within the four walls. And so I've just really called to continually raise awareness for what's really going on in our community.
Ashley, what was it in your background? I know we talked about this before, but that created this idea that you to match the people with money to the people who need money?
Well, it's really exciting because for my corporate background is as a financial planner with Merrill Lynch, and I was there for about 7 years. And after that, I moved on to Wells Real Estate Funds, where I worked with a private real estate investment trust. And I have experience professionally raising money. But after I did that, I started having children, and I stayed at home. And I knew that I wanted to take that professional experience and use it to serve the nonprofit community. So I started taking classes at a local organization here called the Edith Bush Institute. And EBI is this amazing resource to all nonprofit organizations throughout the state of Florida. And they have classes. It's actually housed, and it's a program of a liberal arts college here called Rollins College. And the first time I took a class at Edith Bush Institute, and actually the first couple of classes I took to learn more about the nonprofit industry, I would sit in these classes with anywhere between 8 to 20 people. And every time we would have a class, the facilitator would ask us to go around the room and introduce ourselves and who we are and what was our connection to the nonprofit sector. And I was always extremely humbled by the men and women that were sitting in these classes with me. They, I could honestly tell these weren't people who made a lot of money, but their hearts were just overflowing with love and passion for serving something that meant so much to them. I remember there was one woman who had lost her baby within 3 days of her baby's birth. So she started a nonprofit to serve grieving mothers who had lost their children in their first year of life. There was another gentleman who was extremely passionate about mental illness for veterans. And so he started an organization about providing shelters for veterans. And as I sat and I listened to their stories and I listened to their personal connections to the work of the nonprofits, I thought to myself, there are so many successful men and women here in Orlando and all of Central Florida who want to hear these stories, but they're too busy raising their own families or building their own careers or living their own lives that they don't know how to connect to these nonprofit organizations, and they don't even know where to get started. And it's interesting because our Victory Cup initiative culminates every year in a breakfast. And the two biggest comments that we get every year, and this past year we had 529 people attend our breakfast. And I guarantee you at least 20 people said on their way out the door, the person on the stage was telling my story, or I never knew that organization existed. So taking those classes and learning more about the nonprofit organizations, I just realized that people want to hear the stories of the nonprofits. They want to know what's going on. They want to be able to find missions that they can connect with personally.
Yeah, and then you don't hear about it that often either, about NFPs connecting other NFPs, right? I mean, I think when I first heard about the concept and how you're approaching it, it's very unique in the sense that your mission is to raise awareness and to build a community and get the dollars in the hands of the people that have a unique mission. Very, very similar to kind of the mission of our podcast, right? It's to raise awareness to issues, to identify other nonprofits that we can connect other nonprofits with. I've had some cool stories that have come out of even this, that one nonprofit has listened to a podcast and said, wow, that I want to talk to that person because like maybe we can work together. And I think what you're doing is amazing, just in bringing people together and sharing stories and giving people the opportunity and doing it in a very fun and unique way. I guess my first question is why did you pick a breakfast? Why is your Victory Cup a breakfast meeting?
Well, that's really interesting. When I started attending those classes, I was a stay-at-home mom before I kind of went back to work. And originally we were going to do a lunch, but the first year that we launched the idea of the Victory Cup, and I say we, it was really just me and my 83-year-old dad, who I said, hey, what do you think about this idea? And he said, good luck. I didn't really know a lot of, my business career was in Atlanta, Georgia. So we lived back here in Winter Park, Orlando, Florida at the time, and I didn't really have a lot of business connections. But I am a natural networker, and I know when most people hear that word network or networking event, they're like, oh God, that sounds so miserable. But I really think networking is all about just like sharing who you are and what you have to offer and learning about what other people have going on, so you can find a way to maybe connect and support each other. And so I literally had coffee with 88 people that I did not know that very first year, to say, hey, I've got this idea. I'm thinking about hosting a lunch where we have 10 nonprofit organizations get up, and during the lunch, they each have 2 minutes to pitch who they are and how they're making an impact. And at the end of the breakfast, we would like to invite everyone in the audience to vote. And at the end of the breakfast, we're going to give away $25,000. So, hey, what do you think about that idea? And 2, would you be interested in buying a table if we created this event for $500? That was my big closing sentence.
Oh, nice.
And
You got to
yeah,
raise
it
the
was really
25 somewhere.
yeah. And so there were actually 2 people who said, one person said, that's a horrible idea. They said, and I'd love to tell Lena off camera who it was, because she knows this is a small town. But that person has since come around, but they said the people will only vote. They will vote for the organization that their table captain wants them to vote for. And I said, no, that won't happen, because when the people walk in the room that morning, we really have no idea what people are experiencing in their own personal lives. We really can't limit the power of connection that these men and women have when an organization stands up and talks about Alzheimer's and dementia, and their parents not even knowing who they are or recognizing their sons and daughters when they walk in the room, or parents who have children with disabilities. We have no idea what that plight is unless you have a child with a disability, or a child who's maybe being abused, or the power of teaching someone to read. I remember the very first year we had the Adult Literacy League, was a contestant, and they said, if you don't know how to read, you can't fill out a job application. And I just remember that shot like a lightning bolt through my heart. I thought, this is what Victory Cup is all about. If everyone in the room can remember that one soundbite about the Adult Literacy League and how important it is to teach people to read. Of course, I knew it was important to read, but to give that example, I just thought that can change the trajectory of someone's life and really open up, give them ideas and ways that they can serve that they would have never thought of before, right? When you talk about you link reading to employment, what business leader does not want to do something to inspire employment, right? Because employment changes so many things for generations to come. I digress about that. The other thing that people would say when I would meet with them is that lunches were too hard for people to get in and out of. And since it was a new event and not a lot of people knew about it, it would really be best to do a breakfast. So the first year we had a breakfast, and I do say the 2 things people always say is, hey, they were telling my story, or I didn't know that organization existed. The first year, half the people said, oh, we finally get it. We know what you're talking about now, because I was just pitching it to everyone that I talked to. And so that was really exciting. We had 262 people at the very first breakfast, and we had 529 people at this breakfast in this last February. So it was really exciting. And then I want to go back to, Brad, something that you said about the nonprofits collaborating. There are certain sectors of people. I want to say this the right way. So that just the work that they put in is not rewarded by how much they are paid. And for example, I think of teachers, maybe police officers, maybe like city workers, and there are just industries where we know that people don't get the financial reward that they deserve. And I really believe in my heart that the nonprofit industry is one of those as well. Passion far exceeds paychecks. And I know as a fundraising consultant, my dad, whenever I'm negotiating a contract, I'm always, surprised at how much people want to pay. And my dad says, well, people think that because you work in the nonprofit sector, you don't want to get paid, that you don't care about how much you make. And that couldn't be farther from the truth, right? Because we all have bills, we all have responsibilities, and typically most of us are caring for someone else, whether it be older or younger. So probably the third pillar of the Victory Cup is about the collaboration between the nonprofit organizations. I know Witham Smith and Brown has been extremely instrumental in this piece, but we have events throughout the year where we bring nonprofits together, their leaders, their development directors, and we try to provide educational content. We try to provide an opportunity for them to network and hear about what's working with the other one. We try to completely eliminate the competition between them. We typically will give away financial rewards to all of them just to kind of make it worth their time to come, which I think is good. We believe more in not a win-win and a like you be the winner and we're going to win too, but we want you to win more than we do, more of a redemptive frame on that. And so we really try to eliminate the competition piece between the nonprofit organizations because we want them to walk away with 2 to 3 really strong relationships with other nonprofit organizations in Central Florida that they can reach out to for the rest of their careers for support, advice, wisdom, collaboration.
Now, is it an aggressive competition? You mentioned that you try to create non-competitive environment, but sometimes you can't take that out of people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm a little competitive myself, so I can't put it down too much. I mean, we did give away $52,000 this past year, which was really exciting. And I do think that the size of the purse is very important to the Victory Cup, and I have noticed since we started other competitions doing different things are giving away more money, which I think is really important to give away a lot. So.
Nice. I think that, Brad, that all the nonprofits are kind of in it together. They go through a storytelling workshop where they learn how to tell their story effectively in front of the group, right? Part of the purpose as well is to teach these nonprofits how to tell their stories to the people who have money in a short enough time frame that they can capture their attention and make their point and hold someone's interest, right? The quintessential elevator speech type of thing. So they're there together. They watch each other. They help each other. They kind of go through the process together. And when you hear them talk at the event, they don't talk about it like it's a competition. They all talk about it like it's an opportunity and what they've learned together. And there's been some fantastic collaborations because even inside the nonprofit space, they don't all know what other nonprofits are out there and what they're doing. So it creates the same opportunity for learning for them inside the space as well as for those outside not in the space.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and a great example of that is this past year we had an organization called Michelle Puppets. And this is a woman for the last 25 years. She's tackled really difficult issues for children, and she's done it all through puppet shows. And it's been fascinating. And since our February breakfast, she's now collaborating with the Lifeboat Project, which is an organization on human trafficking to prevent human trafficking. And so she's putting together a show for them. And she actually was reconnected with the Alzheimer's Dementia Resource Center because about 10 years ago, she was doing some work with them. And now they're getting ready to roll out some new programs together that they'll be working on. And Selena's absolutely right. There are so many different ways for them to be collaborating. And, if I'm passionate about Alzheimer's, my father has Alzheimer's, so I'm extremely passionate about Alzheimer's. So I wasn't passionate about this cause 4 years ago, right? But I am today. And so there's no competition for me wanting to support that group. And I think that's really what Victory Cup does, is it's really connecting people, connecting their heart to a cause in our community that they're already connected with, whether they know it or not.
Yeah, and if they get ideas from one another, if that ends up being the case too, then it's just enhancing what their original mission is. And I'm sure everybody's on the same page with trying to help. So that's the goal, I'm sure, across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And some groups are great at social media. Some groups have an amazing golf tournament every year. Some groups do a 5K. Some do a black tie event. Everyone has got to find their niche in raising financial support. And I think it is important for collaboration, especially for those organizations that are trying to do everything. It's like,
Mhm.
well, hey, pull back, talk to some of the other people that are doing things really well and figure out what's the best for your organization.
Yeah.
And you said it, like, be unique. I think uniqueness is something, everybody holds a golf outing, but you're competing with how many golf outings, you're competing with how many missions, you're competing with how many people. Obviously everyone, as you said, I mean, everyone's time is valuable. And in order to capture their attention, you have to capture their attention. You have to find a way that makes people believe in your mission. And generally speaking, people support causes that are personally relatable to them. So as you said, maybe 4 years ago, you may not have been, you know, the number one cause for you may not have been Alzheimer research, or developing some type of solution. However, now you may be experiencing something personal that now that becomes more of a relevant initiative to you. And so, people's trends and habits and what's the word? Can't think of it, doesn't matter. Their passions, they change over time, and a lot of that's dependent on life. I mean, I'm sure in light of everything happening right now through COVID-19, through a lot of the protesting going on, I'm sure people's passions and desires and causes they want to support are drastically changing, right? So even as we talk today, I mean, I think I think it's very helpful that you have an organization that people can share thoughts, that can share share their insights, because 2020 is probably the weird year for most of us. And I think every day is, in our world, in the accounting world, right, this is the boring stuff. Every day we get a new fact about the PPP loan, right? And for the nonprofit community, I'm sure there are its own every day something is happening. So it's really great what you're doing in that aspect, and giving people not only, hey, we're providing you a place to meet, but we're giving you the tools to maximize that meeting, or to help maximize the benefit you're trying to achieve. So I think that educational component is definitely a very important part, it sounds like, of what you do.
Yeah, it is really
And networking.
important, and we've been really lucky to partner with several key communication leaders in our community. We work with several instructors at Rollins College. We work with a local columnist, Scott Maxwell. He helps us with the coaching. We work with a woman from Disney. We work with someone from the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center, which is, our big uh, entertainment complex here. But it is really interesting to me how many people don't know how to tell the story of their organization. They don't know how to share the impact of what's going on, and they don't know how to cater it to the person that they're listening to. Usually, if I meet someone, I'll talk to them for 20 minutes before I even will mention a nonprofit, because I'm always trying to kind of gauge where their heart is and what type of story. And to your point about a PPP story every day, that's something I don't know a lot about, but that is fascinating, right? Teaching nonprofits how to tell their stories through numbers. It's okay if you had a bad year. It's okay if you had to get rid of a bad employee, but get ahead of it. Talk about it. Know the reasons why. Why was it negatively affecting your bottom line? And talk to your donors and the people in the community about it, so that we're all in it together. I mean, people make mistakes, bad things happen. It's what you do after those bad things happen that is a real, I think, a community builder, I think, within an organization.
And I think one thing in there too is intention. I know in listening to most successful business leaders, most successful nonprofits, it's okay to try and fail, but it's a question of, were you intentional about the try, and did you learn from the fail? And I think a lot of times people don't necessarily realize what their intentions are, or where they focus their time. And if you really take a step back, there's a lot of things that we do that try and fail, but if you're aimless about it, and you don't have a strategy, and you don't have a direction, or you don't have a vision with it, you're kind of spinning your wheels. You're going in a fruitless direction. And so, I think, teaching people how to navigate that, I'm sure, is probably something that you do well. Is, how do you create that vision? How do you purport that vision that makes people believe it?
Well, it's really interesting because our season, we really kick off in August, and then we work through April, and then we kind of take the summer off a little bit with what our strategy. And it's I'd say 2 months ago, people were calling me and they were saying, for Victory Cup, why don't you focus on the nonprofits that are being affected by COVID-19, or the nonprofits that are on the front lines of COVID-19? And I thought, yeah, we could do that, but February 2021 is a long way away from now. And then just last week, I had someone call me and they said, why doesn't Victory Cup focus on nonprofit organizations that are serving people of color or that are dealing with racial injustice? And I thought, yeah, we could absolutely do that. But February 2021 is a long way from here. And I hate to say it, but we don't know what else is coming. Like, we don't know what other tsunamis are on the way. So Victory Cup is at a huge crossroad. We don't really know what the next 12 to 18 months look like. We are financially healthy, so we feel really good about that. But I'm really encouraged. Next week is our board retreat, and I'm really encouraging our board to spend the next couple months listening to what they're hearing within their own organizations, listening to what's going on in the nonprofit community. How can, everyone's telling the nonprofit leaders, be creative, be innovative. I mean, if one more person tells me to be creative and be innovative, I'm like, oh, that's like someone telling you, tell me something funny, quick, tell me a joke, make me laugh, And I think innovation comes over time. So we're really focusing on, it's like, how do you make being innovative seem like it's so easy? It's like a really well-run event. You make it look really easy, even though you've been sweating for 6 weeks to, putting it all together. So I just bring that up to say that a lot of nonprofits, we're at a huge crossroad right now. And one thing that we have done really well, and we're kind of trying to figure out what that means, is while we serve the nonprofit organizations, we have a huge following in the for-profit organizations. Our events sell out every year. We have a waiting list. An hour after this year's breakfast, I probably had 6 organizations text me that they were in for next year. And it's kind of since March 13th is really when Orlando shut down. Since March 13th, I've probably had 10 people call me from the Victory Cup breakfast and say, hey, we want to put money on the front lines with organizations who are serving those who are immediately being affected by COVID-19. What should we do? So there's an opportunity right there for Victory Cup to kind of share our nonprofit evaluation process with other donors in the community to kind of help them pick organizations that align with their mission so that they can, and it's a great way to build employee morale and increase your employee culture and just get your entire company excited about organizations that you want to support. So that could be something that we do as well.
Yeah, I like that. I like the way that you're thinking. I like the way that you just approach it. I mean, it's definitely not everybody thinks about it that way, which is good. From your perspective.
What do you mean by that? Which way what are you saying?
Just the fact that not everybody thinks like listen first. People like hear something and then they want to do it. I think your approach to it is a lot more. We are who we are, and we're not going to change for everyone around us. However, there may be circumstances that we probably need to pivot to it, but we're not just going to rush into it. We're going to go about it the way we go about it, right? Like you have a mechanism, a way of going about, even as you said, like the way that you select nonprofits, or the way that you think about supporting nonprofits. You just mentioned that you have a checklist or an evaluation system of how you, view nonprofit organizations. I think not everybody thinks that way.
I'm never going to be the smartest person in the room. Never. I'm never going to be the smartest person in the room. But I'm pretty good at finding out who that person is. Or at least I'm good at creating a platform where people feel comfortable sharing their ideas and sharing what they know, so that we get the cream rises to the top, right? So we get the best from the people in the room. I mean, collaboration is something that Victory Cup is really, really good at. And maybe Lena, you could speak to that as well. But I do think that we work, I mean, if you, in my opinion, if you come to a meeting and you don't participate, then don't go to the next meeting, right? I want to hear from everyone in the room, no matter what their role is.
Right. It's definitely a very engaged group. And to your point about, tell me a joke, we are tasked with trying to innovate and stay relevant, right? The Victory Cup's now 5 years old. When it started, it was new and innovative, and it still is, and there's constantly the striving for what's the next thing. We have a youth initiative where we have middle school kids from 2 different schools who actually go out to the nonprofits and make videos that then they share. And part of that premise is teaching children the importance of giving, right? Because some of that's been lost. And also kind of getting them involved in that system. So there's a constant striving for doing something new, keeping it fresh, and how do we continue to raise more awareness and have more exposure for the nonprofits, have more exposure for people to the nonprofits, and create a sense of collaboration. So, to Ashley's point, it is a great board, and everybody works very well together, is engaged and participates. There's no low-hanging fruit. So.
Yeah, and I'll talk about the youth initiative just for a minute. I'm glad you brought that up, Lena. I'm a mom of a middle schooler. When we started the youth initiative, I wasn't the mom of a middle schooler, but for years, this has been the weapon, right? This is what are our middle schoolers, our high schoolers doing with their phones? What is social media all about? What is Snapchat? I mean, I can't even think of all the different mediums that are on the phone that our kids have access to. That's really scary. But at the same time, I do have a 14-year-old daughter, and I think Morgan is 16, and everyone on this planet is marketing to my 14-year-old daughter and to Lena's 16-year-old daughter. And if you don't think they are, then you're completely clueless. And so we as a board a couple years ago, everyone was talking about the millennials, and I definitely want to hear what the millennials have to say. And we have millennials on our board, and they definitely have a really smart perspective. And I love listening to different generational leaders. But we kind of agreed we wanted to hear what the high schoolers think. We wanted to hear what the middle schoolers are thinking, because they are the ones who are so much technologically more advanced than any of us. So we created the youth initiative. So basically, we work with 2 different middle schools, and we invite students to create a 1 minute, this year we upped it, a 90-second video, them telling their story of what the nonprofit organization does. And it has been life-changing. SeaWorld picked it up our first year, and I think we ended up with 22 students overall. They invited all the students to SeaWorld for the day. They took them on this backstage pass. They asked the students to create a video telling the SeaWorld story. Then the students created a video telling what the Victory Cup experience meant to them. SeaWorld showed it to all of their employees in the state of Florida. We showed it to everyone. In the video, everyone who participated said, at the age of 13 and 14, said, "Now I know I have the power to make a difference in this world." And I think that's pretty exciting. And that's, to me, innovation. But then to keep it going, this year, my daughter actually had the opportunity of participating in the youth initiative. So I was able to kind of dig in deeper as a parent, which is always really interesting. And what I uncovered is that the videos are kind of dead now. That we need to move into something else. And that as I was interviewing the children and I was around them a lot more, we need to let them decide what is the medium that you want to use to tell the story of the nonprofit organization. So I'm super excited about where that's going to go for next year. And just to kind of go on for another minute, my daughter and her friend, their organization was called the Center for Independent Living. And here in Orlando, this is an organization that helps adults with disabilities find a place to live. It helps them find a job, and it also helps wherever they are living be more accessible to whatever needs that they have. So Louise worked with the Center for Independent Living, and they help adults with disabilities really just in any way. They have volunteer groups, build ramps. And when she and her friend came home from their very first interview, they were on fire. They had no idea about the capabilities of this organization. They were so excited that they were able to like share how this organization was helping people. I mean, at the very end, they kept saying, Chance said this and Chance said this. And for the next 48 hours, everything my daughter said was, and then Chance did this and Chance did this. And Chance was the employee who worked with the kids at Center for Independent Living. And you know what? Chance is the development director for the Center for Independent Living. And if Chance is a role model for my 14-year-old daughter, I think that's A-okay. I think that's totally awesome. And then Catherine, her partner, it was really great because at the very end, she said, I would donate my money to the Center for Independent Living. And so I just thought that was really great. And then, of course, I called her dad and said, hold on to your wallet because it's coming. Anyway, big ask.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that's an incredible story. And to answer your question, I think it's TikTok. I think that's the.
Yeah,
I've been hearing that, and you know, you're not going to get me TikToking, but apparently, you know, creating your own little dance videos and voicing them over is the thing these days. So,
well, Brad, if you and I are talking about it now, it's probably not cool anymore.
Oh yeah, no,
it was cool before we knew about it. Now it's not so cool. So.
Yeah, no, I realize that. Yeah, I'm on Instagram, and the only reason I use Instagram is not for the reason everyone else does. I just share pictures on there, right? Isn't that the reason why Instagram's created?
Yeah.
Now it's probably the biggest political platform in the country. So interesting, right? But
True.
anyway, so I guess you know, Ashley, walk us through, I guess, a little bit, because we talked a lot about this, but not everyone has had the joy or experience of actually being at one of your events. You want to walk us through maybe how the day goes, or you know, how nonprofits kind of get involved and how it evolves from there, how they get, you know, selected as a winner.
Sure,
you know, maybe give us a little story about that, or to put frame of reference to it.
Yeah. So it's really exciting. We open up our applications in September. And so people have 30 days to apply for the Victory Cup. It's a very simple application. It's about 15 questions. And typically every year we get about 100 applications. This past year, we actually had 10 organizations that had applied for the last 5 years. So we were really excited that one of those made it into the finalists. So that was really terrific. And we use an online system for evaluating the actual applications. And this is something really neat that we do back to collaboration and back to connecting business leaders and community leaders and anybody with the work of nonprofits. We actually have what's called our community evaluators. So starting in August, there's a team of, well, there are about 8 to 10 of us that will work diligently to invite businessmen and women to help us review the applications. So for example, Brad, if you were one of our community evaluators, once our application process closes, you would get an email and we would ask you to evaluate anywhere between 8 to 10 applications, and we give you 2 weeks to do that. So then at the end of October, we have all 100 applications have been evaluated at least 8 to 10 times by 8 to 10 different people. So what that means is this past year, we had 85 community evaluators helping us select the final 10 nonprofit organizations. And that in itself is a really exciting program. And that's really our program for business leaders. So in October, we host a big breakfast. We invite all our community evaluators in. We inspire them. We share, you know, just a little bit about the nonprofit sector, but we really stress the integrity of our program and the importance of their involvement and how much we need them to help us pick the final 10. And then that's really neat because then for the next 2 or 3 months, they say, you know, my favorite one didn't make it, or I didn't, you know, the one I picked made it into the top. And it is interesting because so many people will say, oh, I picked the winner. And that's really, if you look at the numbers, almost impossible for everyone we know to say they picked the winner. But anyways, so community evaluators evaluate the applications in November. And then in December, we do a debrief where we announce the 10 finalists, and we have a meeting where we go over the rules of the competition. And then starting in January, we start the training. So we do storytelling training for all 10 nonprofits, and everything that we do, each nonprofit has to bring 3 people from their organization. And we do that because we're making a huge investment in them. And we know that there is high turnover typically in nonprofit organizations. And so we want our investment to stay with the actual organization. So that's something that the nonprofits struggle with at first. They're like, gosh, how are we gonna take 3 people, you know, out of the office for that event or this training? But as soon as they come to the first event, they're so happy. They say, this is the best team building we've ever done. You know, I'm so happy I got this time out of the office with Lena or Ashley. It was just terrific. And so during January, we do the training. We also invite our very top corporate sponsors to any event that we have of the 10 finalists. So if you've given $10,000 or more to Victory Cup, you're invited to everything that we do, because we want to provide a marketing or a networking opportunity for our biggest benefactor. So that's really cool. And then at the end of January, we do a dress rehearsal. And this is probably the most stressful part of our process. We have a panel of 5 leaders here in Central Florida, and the nonprofits have to come in and they have to actually give us their presentation. And this is done 2 weeks before the actual breakfast. And after they give us their presentation, we give them some extremely constructive feedback about their 2.5-minute program. And it's really tough on the nonprofits. We're very honest with them. But at the same time, we're giving them an opportunity to share in front of 500 people, and we don't want them to mess up, right? Again, we don't want them to be nervous. We want them to put their best foot forward, and we want them to get to the podium that morning and feel like, I've got this, I'm ready, you know, and win or lose, I did my best today. And so that's a really, really exciting part that we do is the dress rehearsal. So that's a really big day for us. And then a couple weeks later, we have the Victory Cup breakfast. We have a ton of volunteers. We probably have about 40 volunteers help us with the parking lots, directing people to the event. We do it on a college campus at Rollins College, which is in the heart of Winter Park. And we do it on their 2nd floor gym because we needed a space that big, and they said yes. They do it for us for people. So we can't beat that. You know, that's fantastic. And the first couple years, I had a DJ that I loved, but now we've moved into a string quartet. So we have a string quartet, and you know, another really nice compliment is people just talk about all the leaders that are in the room, and I think that's really exciting because I don't know who 80% of those people are. You know, I'm behind the scenes. But, you know, Lena's got a great table, Greg's got a great table, Carrie's got a great table. And so it's a lot of really influential people. So that makes it kind of the place to be, which is just a huge blessing for our organization. And Lena, maybe you could talk to that as well. And then we kick off the program. We explain the rules to the audience members. Each organization has 2.5 minutes to pitch who they are and how they're making an impact in our community. And at 2.5 minutes, we have a pianist who starts playing music, and he plays them off the stage. And when the program is over, it takes about 26, 27 minutes. Thank you to Witham Smith & Brown. We have a text message voting software that we use that they sponsor. And so we have a team that they stand up. We provide ambassadors for all the guests to make sure that they have their phones and they're able to vote, and everyone votes. And Lena kind of oversees that process, and she lets us know when we've gotten 90% of the crowd has actually voted. And it takes about, I would say, 3 to 5 minutes at the most. More, really, it takes about 2 to 3 minutes. But we hold it open just to make sure. And then as soon as it's over, we announce the winner. And first, second, third place. First place gets $20,000. Second place gets $15,000. Third place gets $10,000. And this year we were really excited because the other 7 contestants got $25,000. $100. But they continue to receive gifts after that. One group received $10,000 the next day. The Christian Service Center, they've got $10,000 the next day. Family Promise, they got $500 the next day. Michelin Puppets, they won a grant for $15,000 because of Victory Cup. And then we did have a family foundation in the audience who sent all 10 nonprofits an additional $2,000. So it's really exciting to see the excitement in Central Florida that happens the 30 days after the event. Typically their fundraising events sell out if they have them in the spring after our event, and they get a lot of notoriety in our community for the next 12 months for participating in Victory Cup. So it's a huge amount of exposure for these nonprofits. And even if they bomb, which they don't, but even if they get up there and they bomb, they're still, because of the numbers, there's still 5 to 10 people that want to go up and talk to them afterwards and say, hey, you told my story, you know, how can you help my little brother? Or how can you help my grandmother? How can we connect? It's just a really, really powerful morning. So
Now with the presentation, so you said they're 2.5 minutes, right? Is there any magic behind the 2.5 minutes? I know, like for example, like TED Talks are 17 minutes because there's this whole psychological component about how that's the perfect amount of time to share what you have to share. Is there any magic behind the 2.5 minutes?
Well, it is interesting. When I first had the idea, I was in my dad's driveway and I said, hey, Dad, what do you think if we had this lunch and we invited 20 nonprofits to pitch, you know, but they only had like a minute or two to do it? And my dad said, well, he's from Kentucky. He said, I think that's just too much time. I don't think people have an attention span to hear from 20 nonprofits. Why don't you do 12? So then we narrowed it down to 10. And the reason why we came up with the 2.5 minutes, at first we came up, it was just 2 minutes. They had 2 minutes to pitch. But I gotta tell you, they complained so much that very first year that there's no way they could do it in 2 minutes. So I don't like to say this, but we did kind of get nudged a little bit. So we said we would give them 2.5 minutes. But when I get pushback about the 2.5 minutes, I remind everyone that no one's listening after 20 seconds. No one's reading the third line of your email. No, you know, people are moving fast. People are being pulled in a lot of different directions. As a nonprofit leader, you've got to be able to connect, share your mission quickly, and then, you know, is there interest? Is there potential for support? If not, you got to move on. So I think it's really important. If it were up to me, I think we could get it down to a minute. And then when you see the youth initiative videos and you see how much they accomplish in just a minute, it is really, it's inspiring to see that. Now that as long-winded as I've been today, I'm really sorry about that. But I think it's better to be succinct, articulate.
Yeah.
I would agree. No, that's good to hear. And I think, yeah, it's always interesting how you know, this is created and evolves, right? Like, you know, you learn what the right amount of time is, or you learn how many people you need to have, or you know, all that comes through feedback. It comes through, you know, what's funny is probably the first gut reaction is probably the right one, right? When you're going to create this, like, yeah, it's gonna be 2.5 minutes, 10 people, and then someone's like, it should be 25. You're like, yeah, it should be 25, and then you're like, nah, it should be 10 again. You know, like I feel like it's funny how the evolution like always comes back to like your original reaction of this is what I think, because for whatever reason, you know, God bestowed our original thought as the right thought, and then we complicate it by overthinking it. But
well, and you know, it's interesting. I mean, I can think of about, I mean, we've worked with 51 nonprofit organizations so far. So, but I can think of about 5 leaders who throughout the process have said to me, I'm a really good speaker. You know, I speak all the time. I've been talking to groups for the last 25 years. And I think to myself, I didn't even hear one word you just said because I can't even pay attention. Like, you're not a good speaker. Like, we want to help you be a better speaker. I know I'm being a little snarky now, but like, it's
like an
people get too comfortable. I think people get too comfortable and they have a fiduciary responsibility to always be learning and always, you know, trying to be better. And I mean, there's 2 people in particular that when I called him to let him know that was a finalist in the Victory Cup, this is about 3 years ago, he said, "Oh, I'm just walking into this UN meeting. I'm getting ready to present." And I thought, oh my gosh, we picked someone who's an expert, he's going to blow everybody out of the water. No, he didn't blow anybody out of the water. He was probably like 9th or 10th in the voting. He did speak a lot, and his nonprofit was this amazing organization, but he didn't know how to connect with the audience. He didn't know how to ask questions to kind of figure out where people were before he started speaking. It was just really interesting. So, but he's someone who loves collaborating with the other nonprofits. And whenever we talk to him, he comes to every event that we have and he says, "I just love being around the other nonprofit leaders. I learned so much from them." So he was able to find, what he needed out of Victory Cup.
Yeah. You're teaching everybody too how to refine what they're saying so that as many people that have the opportunity to speak, it opens the doors for clear representation of what they're doing, so everybody walks away understanding and their attention has been held. If you're right, if it's over a certain amount of time, it's harder to get the message across and to kind of let people soak it all in for really what they want to be, the message that they want to be getting across. So you're teaching them that, and then these children that are interacting and involved in that program, they're probably going to grow up with a different mentality about giving and what it means because they're involved at a young age too. So across the board, it's about getting the message across and inspiring excitement amongst these organizations.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, if I had to think of who ends up doing the best, to me in any type of presentation or meeting, it's those people who are the most authentic, right? Like it's okay to say, "Hey, I'm nervous," or it's okay to just be yourself and share what's going on. We had one organization called Jobs Partnership, which is a really neat organization here in town, and they provide job training for a lot of individuals from marginalized communities. And they had this gentleman named Pastor Robertson, and he hands down was the most popular guy in any of the events that we had, any of the trainings that we facilitated. Everybody loved him. But when he would get up to the podium, for some reason he would get really serious and he would lose his personality. And I kept saying, "Pastor Robertson, we want to just speak from your heart. Like, you've got a great story, you've got a great talk, but just speak from your heart." And I was so excited because when it finally came time for him to get up and present, and this was last year when I think we had about 485 people last year, he got up and he got real close to the microphone and he got real low and he goes, "She didn't tell me there were going to be so many people here." And the whole place just started roaring, laughing. And then he proceeded to go and tell this great story about how they had changed this woman's life. But he won second place. And I think he told a great story, but I think he really got everyone out of their chairs and immediately connected to him because he just was real. And we have another woman we had a woman from Next Step Orlando, and she was a 24-year-old paraplegic who had been in a horrible car accident, but her whole life she was a dancer. And when she got to when she was on stage, and we start the clock when they say their first word. And so her name was Amanda. And when Amanda said her first word, we started the clock. And then she blanked out. And for like 15 seconds, she could not remember her next line.
Oh no.
And she's looking and she's looking and she's looking. And her mom is off to the side, and her mom starts walking towards her. And then she goes, boom. And it's like she woke up and she went right into her speech. And she said, there are hundreds of gyms in this town, and there isn't one gym for someone like me. And it just brought the house down, and everybody started crying. She ended up winning that year. And it was so interesting. When we called her name that she won, she was in the bathroom crying because she thought she had done such a bad job because she had missed the first 15 seconds. And so, so much of what we do, whether it's, work in accounting or help people tell their stories better, or you're a doctor or you're a teacher, it's about being authentic, loving others, listening, and just figuring out, hey, how can I serve those around me? And how can I be mindful of those who are at a disadvantaged circumstance that I don't even know about and I couldn't even contemplate because of where I am right now. And that's really what the Victory Cup is all about. And it's such an honor to serve these nonprofits and hear about the work they're doing. There is one other thing I want to say, and I had a really cool moment this past week. I really like it when I get the sound bites from the nonprofits, and I remember them for the rest of my life. And I could give you 10 right now from 10 different organizations because they mean so much to me. But there was one, our first year, we had the Seminole County Legal Aid speak. And this young Black woman spoke, and she was so smart and so articulate. She just knocked it out of the park. And one of her closing statements was, an injustice for one is an injustice for all. And I had never heard that. And again, it was like a lightning bolt to my heart. And I thought, that's it. I get exactly what Seminole County Legal Aid does. And she had told this really great story about helping a young immigrant. And just this past week, I was listening to a TED Talk, and they were quoting Martin Luther King. And I guess that quote is from him. And I didn't know that. And again, I just felt like, I just felt like it was a really powerful full circle moment of hearing his words be spoken by her 5 years ago at this event that's one of the most important events of my life, the inaugural Victory Cup. And just to hear that woman using his words was just a really cool moment, and connecting all of it together.
So what's next? I mean, you've accomplished so much in 5 years. I think, your story of just bringing people together is incredible. What's next for Victory Cup? Where do you want to take it? What are your plans in the future?
My goal for Victory Cup is that we have a board of directors that's super excited about leading our organization, and that's super excited about helping us figure out what's next, and that we have leaders who want to engage in serving nonprofits and want to help us figure what that looks like. There's so many different directions that we could go into. We could go in other cities. Our mission statement is to inspire excellence in our community, one story at a time. I love that because I think we could inspire excellence in Birmingham, one story at a time. We could inspire excellence in Charlotte, North Carolina, one story at a time. I think we could also really help donors connect with a mission that they care about so that they feel more comfortable to give more and to engage at a higher level. I think that's kind of a different business route that Victory Cup could take. I also think we could give away a lot more money. While we've probably had about 2,000 people attend our breakfast, I think we have over 2 million people who live in our city. So there's plenty more people who should be coming and hearing the stories and hearing about what's going on. So I hope we just continue to stay focused on service, on love, and on excellence, and that we are a resource for people who want to do more and be more to those who are less fortunate.
That was a good 60-second summary.
Thank you.
Maybe we could get it down to a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
I think that sums it up pretty well.
So where does Victory Cup need assistance from the public? Does Victory Cup, if you were to give your elevator speech of how others, can get involved, what would that be? And, what would help Victory Cup have more of an impact than you're already having?
Mm-hmm. Well, two things right off the top of my head is if you could encourage nonprofit organizations to apply, if you could encourage them to be a part of the Victory Cup experience, if you could encourage them to come to our events. There are so few organizations, we want nothing from them but for them to be better and grow stronger. So we don't want them to be discouraged if they didn't make it 1 year or they didn't make it 2 years in a row. We want them to keep being a part of our community so we can continue to uncover ways to serve them. So we need to do a better job of really marketing ourselves to the nonprofits and to continue them to take advantage of our programs. And then the other thing I would say is if you've been to Victory Cup a couple years in a row, it's kind of like the old church call, like give your seat to someone else, like if you've been to Victory Cup for 3 years in a row and you're not giving away at least $10,000 a year to one of those organizations, then invite someone else into what we're trying to do and invite someone else into the storytelling concept so they can hear about what's going on and they can be a part of transforming nonprofit organizations in Central Florida. So those would be kind of the two things right off the bat. And then, we always are looking for volunteers for our events and then just really strong leaders, entrepreneurs. And I love meeting people who have had a business in this community for 10 plus years and saying, hey, I want you to come to Victory Cup and hear about what's going on, what's going on all over Central Florida that you may not be seeing in your daily commute or when you take your child to school or when you're going to church on Sunday.
And do you guys have social media platforms and a website and all that good stuff where people can donate or reach out?
Yes, we would love the most talented, innovative, artistic, creative social media expert to come and call me and volunteer for the next 5 years and run our LinkedIn, our Instagram, our Facebook, and we will get you a Costco membership and a gift card to Chick-fil-A and a lot of high fives and we would just love some social media. It's just not a language I speak. And it is so important. It is so important. And I get it. And it's everything. And so we would love some help in that area. Being completely honest.
We do have some.
What's funny is we're holding a webinar on, I forget what date, me and Ashley just selected to have a webinar on maximizing social media for your nonprofit.
Oh, well, I need to like watch it 8 times.
We'll make sure you get that. But Matt, who works in our marketing department, he helps me. I reach out to him. Ashley knows I reach out. I'm like, what do I do with this? I'm the same way. I'm not. You're probably better than I am, but I'm not savvy with it the way that you need to be savvy with it. You're right. I mean, there's so much, especially with the younger generations. I mean, to some degree, that's their first and only source of information is this guy. So the more that you can connect with more people, it's just we all need to be better.
I think it's I'm a solicitor. That's what I do. I have a company called Advanced Strategies, and I met with a nonprofit. And they're like, oh, I need to raise money. We need to do this. And I said, how's your social media, right? Because everyone wants to know what's my social media strategy. And I said, what's your social media strategy? They said, oh, we just interviewed someone, but I mean, she wanted $12,000 for a year. I said, grab her. I said, $12,000 to reach everybody who's 40 and under? Like, run, don't walk. Secure that person. That is an amazing gift to your organization because I respect it. I'm not proud to say I'm not good at it. I'm embarrassed that you asked that question, Ashley, because we need to be really responsible about it. I feel very strongly about that. It's really, really important.
Yeah, there's nothing to be embarrassed about either. And like you said, every organization has things that they're really great at and other aspects that maybe they need a little help with. And that's like anything and everybody, and it's awesome because social media is basically, I mean, there can be paid ways to get followers and get your message out there, but it's pretty much free promotion of your stuff that's going on. So as much as everything's out there as it is, there's always extra help that comes from the promotion that can be done on these platforms, and it's awesome. And there's definitely tons of different opportunities for it. But somebody out there will be like, yes, I'm 100% on board. I want to help them. Their mission is wonderful, and that's all a part of like where you were saying. You talk about what you do, you talk about your mission, and people end up kind of coming into your world now because they've heard about what you do. They want to help, and again, not everybody can be an expert in everything, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do want to just talk about one other piece of Victory Cup. One of the key pillars of Victory Cup is about connecting people to giving. And we really believe that people may or may not give for a couple different reasons. And I personally believe that people don't give because, one, it wasn't modeled for them when they were growing up. Maybe their mom or dad didn't give. Or two, a lot of giving principles are spiritual. And so some people aren't spiritual, or they haven't found a practice that they identify with. So there aren't spiritual teachings about giving that they identify with. The third reason why I think people don't give, and when I say give, I mean financially, but also of their time, because time for me is my most valuable asset right now. But people don't give because they haven't found that one mission that resonates with them 100% with who they are. And at the beginning of our conversation, I talked about over these last 5 years, there have only been 2 people who have actually said to me, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think this is going to work. And both people, I asked them, I said, as the conversation continued to evolve, I said, if I were to give you $20,000 and you could give it to any organization that you wanted to, what organization would you give it to? Or what cause would you give it to? And when I would hear them explain who they would give it to, I would get to know their heart, right? I got to know who they were as people. I got to understand where they were coming from and why that cause was important to them. One woman was very passionate about prison reform and about working with people when they get released from prison. You know, that's a very personal passion, right? There's a story there, and a very important story. The other person really was passionate about not helping foster kids, not helping foster teens, but helping people, children who had made it through traumatic childhoods, but were on their own in their 20s. He was very specific about that. It was about helping children who had had traumatic childhoods or had been abandoned in what they were doing in their 20s. He really felt like that population of people had been forgotten. Well, whether or not after my conversation they've supported Victory Cup or loved Victory Cup or not, I was able to establish a lifelong relationship with those people. And now they're my friend. And whether they believe in my work or not, I believe in them, and I got to see their heart, and I want to support them and who they are. And so that's really what Victory Cup is about. It's about exposing people to what's really going on and then encouraging them to get involved, to give financially, to give through their time, to volunteer, or potentially to give a service of something that's in kind.
I love where your head's at on this, and I think, as I told you in our initial call, when if you can just sign the book and send it over to me when you're done writing it, I think you have such a great story, such a great background, such a powerful message, and it's really the gift that keeps on giving, right? You talk about generosity, but there's a pay it forward concept that you're talking about that resonates, where not only are we teaching people how to sell their own story, but we're also teaching those people so they can teach people, so that they can teach people. And it seems as though that gift is exponential, and then you're getting people in front of corporations, so you're developing a network for them. There's so much to what you do that resonates and creates this lasting impact that it's really inspiring to hear. So we really appreciate you taking the time with us and sharing your story with us. I think this was definitely inspiring to me, as well as eye-opening to just hear kind of how you go about it, and some of the impact you've had already, as well as kind of where you're taking it. I think it's a wonderful organization and a wonderful mission that you have.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, you guys.
Hey Warriors, thanks for tuning in. On the next episode of Civic Warriors, we'll talk with Serena Greco from People Are There, or PAT, about raising awareness to mental health issues and being there for your friends, family, and community. Make sure to subscribe to Civic Warriors, and thanks for all your support. Have a great day.